Singularity 6 had their first game showcase of Palia. In it, we got an official look at gameplay, learned about the systems, life skills, some of the characters, the story, and what the general feel of the game is going to be. If you missed it or need a refresher, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to show you and summarize everything that was talked about, as well as touch on some additional things not under NDA, and give my overall thoughts on this showcase, with the hopes that we will see more in the future. I'm doing this Palia video slightly different than the many others I have made, so let me know how you think I did in the comments. With that said, let's jump into the details. Magic is taboo in the world of Palia because the ancient humans were a high magic civilization, but they all disappeared, so the current residents feel that it is evil. However, there is an underground market that may sell rare magic items or super rare housing items. For the story details, there's some swirly pink void where humans are coming from and back into Palia for the first time in thousands of years. One of the Magiri is investigating an ancient human ruins and activates this magical event that causes a human, our character, to appear out of nowhere. According to the narrative designer Olivia, this is the first time our character has existed ever, so we aren't being pulled from another dimension. So that's one mystery that we will have to solve. But there are also many humans entering the world all over. The first town we come across is called Kilima Village, a small town that used to be a big trade hub, but business has dried up for some reason. The fact that it's a trade hub kind of tells us that there are more cities and NPCs that we will eventually come across. The video started with a look at the character creator. We get to choose a body type representing a masculine or a feminine build. Then we have an option between our face shape, skin tone, eyes, and voice. We choose the clothes we will be wearing, the hair, shoes, and face accessories. From what we are able to see, the devs actually had multiple cultural backgrounds in mind when picking what options we can have, which is something we rarely see in a lot of MMOs. In the faces, we see a multitude of nationalities. When picking the hair, we can see what appears to be a hijab. So very unique in those options. When naming the character, we can have a full name with accents, hyphens, and apostrophes, and then we can create a nickname, which is what the villagers would call us. So if your name was like Obi-Wan Kenobi, when you're talking to the villagers, they will refer to you as Ben for some reason. We get a little look at what the beginning experience will be like, talking to the innkeeper Ashura and getting a tent for our plot of land. The housing in Palia is instant housing. I believe this is to be easy on the game engine, as we can clear out the land as we want to and place items and buildings where we would like them to be. We get some more gameplay of chopping trees and clearing space to craft a couple of items to get started. We get to see how the crafting screen works and how we place items on our plot of land with a grid system that we can also turn off when we don't want things to uniformly snap into place. After we get that initial tent set up, we can go and start talking to the villagers and exploring the world. We got a glimpse of a skill wheel and look at some of the gathering and crafting. The items we gather and craft can be used as gifts for the various NPCs to raise friendship or romance levels, which I'll get into a little later. Doing these activities take focus, which is our energy currency in the game. We can refill that focus up by eating or drinking various items. Another cool thing to see is our inventory/character menu screen. Everything is fairly clean and easy to make sense of. If you look at the bottom left, you see the levels of each of the activities. We can see our various tools and our items backpack area. It looks like we are going to be able to have accessories as well that might affect certain skill proficiencies. We get our tools and ability to use them from talking to the various NPCs that we can talk to. As we get higher in skills, we will actually get better tools to help be more proficient in our skills. In the gathering section, we saw bug catching. We get to see some bug catching in action with this bug catching ball. There's different bugs that can come out at certain places and times of day. We got to see some hunting with a bow and arrow that will allow us to get various types of meat and fur. The animals we hunt also vary by places and time of day. With the fishing, there is a little challenge, but it's not too difficult. Some of the fish will be harder to catch than others, like there's higher tier fish. With foraging, there are various flowers and plants that can be foraged. These can be used for furniture, dyes, or gifts, and time of day also matters for those as well. With mining, we can see the type of ore it is by the chunks sticking out of the rocks that we mine. And with logging, we can see some trees being chopped down with various types in different locations. We get a closer look at how housing works. We get to see some more of the overhead view and how some of the house is customized when adding on additions. We get the new room plans from the city hall, and then there's a craft time associated with it if we have all the materials that we need. Now, I did notice that some people were a bit upset that it had a real-time crafting time to it, and felt it to be a time-gatey type thing. But there are a lot of similar games that have you wait for larger crafting projects. It helps put players into doing other things in the world or to step away from the game for a while. In the video, we see a housing edition take 4 hours. It's not really that long of a time. You just go out and do some gathering or crafting or whatever, and you come back and your house is probably done. The housing plot is really like its own game by itself. There are permissions that you can set on per player basis. You'll be able to upgrade them to editor status so they can move stuff around in your space, but they won't be able to destroy your house or anything like that. There's an option for multiple housing plots, and you can set different permissions on each of them. So far though, all we know is that it's more than 2. For crafting, there is going to be like an auto crafting system, and the auto crafters are crafting machines that help you process a massive amount of materials without having to stand at the crafting station the entire time. You got furniture making, where there's high-tier recipes that you can get from NPCs. There's gardening, where you place gardening plants and then use your hoe to make some squares where you will plant your seeds. In the gameplay, we see tomatoes, onions, and carrots. There are some buffs that can occur depending on your garden layout. For example, the tomatoes next to the carrots. We also have to manage the weeds growing in our gardens. Similar to other cozy games, we sell our harvest and gatherables by putting them in the shipping bin outside of the gate. With cooking, they made it so it's like a little mini game where you have to press your keys or buttons at certain time and go in between multiple stations like a prep counter and the stove. There's flipping, chopping, stirring, and rolling. And if you make a star quality dish, you can use it as a decor item and place it in your home. Next, we will talk about some of the villagers. We learned that Zeki is known as a Grimoken and that he is like a space pirate cat. He also runs the Kill branch of the underground shop. This was another clue that there are potentially more cozy towns that we will be able to visit and explore, probably with even more NPCs to befriend and romance and more room for housing plots. Then we see Kenyatta, the daughter of the bumbling mayor Kinley, and his magistrate wife Eshe. We get to learn about Einar, who was a Golder, which is a type of golem made by humans thousands of years ago. They were programmed with something called the oneness, which is the one thing in the world that makes them happy. There's oneness in the action of doing, but not in the results. There are 2 of these golem beings that we know of, but we were given another clue that there were many out there that we will interact with, and that also there are some interesting things that will happen lore-wise. It talks about friendship and romance, and there are many different ways to gain friendship points. We got a view of the friendship tracker, which shows your different friendship levels with each of the villagers, and it looks like there's a spot that tells you what kind of gifts they like and what kind they really like. To get friendship points, you can talk to them once every Palian day, which resets every hour, and you can give them gifts once every real world day. And then there are special gifts, which are the ones we see in the weekly wants, and to find out what they are, we have to talk to either the villagers or the other villagers to find out what kind of things they like the villagers or their friends. When we find out what it is that they want, it'll appear in the friendship tracker. All characters are friendable, but they are not all romanceable, which makes sense as different characters have different motivations or are married. One is a literal child, but certain characters will have a separate romance meter that we can unlock once our friend level is high enough. There are some characters that aren't romanceable yet that might be available in the future, and it is possible to romance more than one character because it's in the early courting stages, like you're just dating, so there's no marriage in the game quite yet. Moving on with more gameplay, we learn about a quest that we have to partake on to unlock our glider. This is going to require putting a lot of the skills we know to the test, like logging, gardening, or if you have the coins, the in-game currency, you'll be able to buy the items from an NPC shop if you don't want to hurt animals. Like the goal is so if a player doesn't want to hunt animals, for example, they can just buy the materials that they would have had to hunt for. We went into the multiplayer systems, and all that we learned before was from a solo player doing the daily things viewpoint. Now we get to go into how multiplayer affects those different systems. We are shown 2 players logging and mining the same nodes, and we learn that if anyone is participating in the activity, the person that helps gets the same reward as well. While this is going on, the host asks if there are 5 or 6 people, will they be able to team up? And we are told that it's possible, and that there are a couple of opportunities where you are going to need to partner up to take it out. He says a massive tree or maybe something magical. And I'm wondering if that's that teleporting deer we saw in the trailer. That could be what they're referring to. If you fish near another player, you both receive buffs, or you can walk to someone and give some encouragement to boost their fishing capabilities. With bug catching, there is a later item called the honey lure that will lure in a bunch of bugs, and other players can come around and try to catch insects also. To make that a more engaging and fun experience for everyone, if a player makes an attempt at a bow bug throws the catching device in its location, then they will also get that bug. It's also the same with hunting, where two people can share in the resources. But with gardening and harvesting, another player can help water and till the land, but they can't take your crops. For cooking, you can have a friend act as your sous chef to help prep some items while you are working on another station. If a friend helps make the dish, they will get the food item that was being made as well. Now, the elephant that's always in the room with free-to-play games is the monetization. In Palia, there is a shop for clothes, which is the only place that real-world currency is used, with some specialized outfits. We saw an outfit with a guitar on the back, and we've got another hint at what might come in the future when asked if we can play instruments. The answer was not yet, but maybe in the future. All the items that are bought from the store are strictly cosmetic. What they showed so far was just clothes. I hope we are able to craft or find clothes in game, and that if new housing items are added to the game, that they won't be confined to the shop and we'll be able to craft them. The last gameplay bit we see in the stream is an adventure zone, where more of the higher level gathering happens. It's a bigger open space and there is more to explore and learn about the world in it. They will be adding more adventure zones in the future, and they may also give us reasons to explore older adventure zones. So what did you think about what was shown here as the first gameplay showcase? What is something that you would have liked to see? Any questions that didn't get answered? It seems like they wanted to give us a basic look at the game and what we can do and not go into any depth. I feel like this might have been a good time to answer some questions from the community, talk open about how many players will be on a server or can be on a screen at the same time. Is there trading? I think there's different instances like the adventure zone and the village zone where you can have more players in the field, but they didn't really go into that. These stress testing periods have brought in a lot of people, so I'm curious with how the server infrastructure works. I think they wanted to hold a lot for players to experience and explore for themselves, so they didn't go too deep into any of those juicy details. Maybe when the game launches, we can see a real-time live stream with the community manager and team. I believe it's those interactions with the CM that strengthens the bonds between the players and the dev team. The final Q&A from the Discord has already passed, but so many people still have so many questions. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with Palia info, and hopefully we can get some more answers. Until next time, thanks for watching. Peace.